A very good morning to all the participants. I hope I am audible to everybody.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Clear.
yes, ma'am. Very well.
Okay, great. We will just start in next 2-3 minutes. I'm just waiting for others also to join in, and then I will just start with the session. Okay, while the others are joining, I think we can interact. We all can share some discussion. So once again, good morning, everybody. And so I can see, can I see a couple of faces of the participants? If possible, you can just, put your videos on a little bit. I just wanted to have a interaction with you all. So, it's a lovely experience of seeing the faces of the students when you enter into the class. So the disadvantage of working in the this kind of an virtual work environment. Good morning, Ajay sir. Good morning, Anandya.
Good morning, madam.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, Anandya ji. Okay, so first of all, I went through the brochure also, and even I had also attended one of the sessions yesterday. So I wanted to know that what are the things that you have learned yesterday. So if I have to ask you that, just summarize in just 2-3 bullet points, what are the things you will like to put in? Hello, Vaishali ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, yesterday your session was wonderful.
Thank you, ma'am.
The flexi environment and the hybrid working environment and all, which are very much, it goes in line with the current pandemic scenario. Actually, the approach of carrot and stick which you spoke. So here it becomes very difficult, to control the employees. As far as self-accountability is considered. So again, it somewhere links to the moral or morality, we can say, of an individual, or the self of belongingness towards organization and commitment towards their work.
Very nice, ma'am. There is a word that you have used today, which is morality. We'll talk about it in today's session. There is a lot to talk on it. In fact, I remember when we were having session yesterday, somebody had asked me that could you please, discuss something on positive organizational behavior. And then I said that this is a topic which we are going to discuss in detail today. So I told that let's just defer it for today's session. So we'll be talking about in length today. Yeah.
But you cannot think of having all the people so committed. You have all the group of people in a team. So it becomes really challenging for the leader to understand exactly, to motivate them and to develop a sense of belongingness.
Very nice, ma'am, and very rightly said. We cannot motivate everybody, but a leader, it's his job. Management skills as well as the influential skills. I remember when you people were, I think, attending Shautya sir's session yesterday, there were the 3 fundamentals which he used for the concept of leadership. Anybody who can remind the entire group about those 3 things which the sir was talking about? Which is very important.
Yes, it was power,
Yes, power. Yes. So I was saying it was one is power. Yes, very good.
Then second was influence, and the last
Absolutely.
was achievement of the goal.
Goal congruence.
Goal
Otherwise, I would
congruency,
say
yes.
alignment of goals. Yes.
Alignment of goals. Yeah.
Alignment of goals. See, every person just, and he was also discussing different types of leadership. In fact, I will also be taking something on that in today's session. So it's very right, these are the fundamentals of a leader. So like ma'am was saying, we cannot motivate everybody. We cannot guide everybody. We cannot, influence everybody. Job commitment is not something we can expect from everybody. But then leader will never give up, right? Just imagine yourself, forget about leadership, forget about every other principle. Just imagine your own classroom. I apply all the fundamentals in my classroom session. If my student is saying that I do not want to study, can I say, okay, you don't study? Will I give up? I won't. I won't. What will be your reaction? Anybody? If I am sure everybody must have faced this scenario in their day-to-day teaching, that you get all type of students. You get hardworking students, you get mischievous students, and you also get students that they are like, ma'am, we don't want to do this. We are really not getting the feel of it. So what do you do with these students? Do you give up? Do you say, no, it's okay, you don't have to study, fine, don't study? Do you give up? Anybody? Okay, Sushmita ma'am is saying, no, we don't give up. Absolutely, ma'am. I won't give up. Same thing goes with the participants here. If somebody is saying, no, we don't want to hear, I won't give up. I will say, okay, I will change my way of teaching them. So, anybody else? Anybody would like to say something on it? Will you give up?
No.
No. So what will you do? The question is not, we know that you won't give up. Then what will you do? What strategy you will adopt?
We have to do it differently. We have to do
How
it differently,
differently?
different approach, maybe a little personalized approach as per the team or the followers we are talking about as a leader.
Personalized, very nice.
Because every individual is different in the team itself. So we need to think about what are the challenges each and every one is facing, and then accordingly work out a strategy, because you cannot have an SOP kind of a thing for everybody. There is an SOP, but approach towards the people management has to be different for everybody.
Absolutely. There's something, I hope everybody must have seen Tare Zameen Par, the movie. Everybody must have seen that.
Yeah.
So what was the role of the teacher there? He realized that one fellow student is behaving a bit differently from the rest of the class. And he just realized that he needs some extra attention. And he gave that. And he realized that what was his problem. So sometimes every student is not the same. Their pace is different. Their pace is different to catch up. So the same thing is with the leader also. A leader also faces the same crisis at the workplace. You find people of all groups. You find, I'm sure, even the principals, when they are managing the administration, they also face the same issue. That you get faculty members of all types at all type of workplaces. Even in corporates, a manager has to lead people of all types. People who are willing to work, people who are not willing to work, people who have got so accustomed to their day-to-day routine that they are not willing to change. But then you will never give up. The answer to this is you will keep trying unless and until you make it happen. I hope I have answered the query, ma'am. I hope the way you were talking about the job commitment, and you were saying that how to make this thing work.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, I think now the participants have come in, and so I do not want to lose out on time, because again, today we have a lot of interesting things to talk about. So let's talk about the topic today. So what topic we are dealing with today? Anybody who knows what are we going to talk about today?
Yes, ma'am. This is the deception, resonant, and servant leadership.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So my focus is going to be on this concept of deception and servant leadership. Now, first of all, tell me, I want to understand, I want to know how many of you have read this topic before? How many of you are aware of this topic before? Or you have just, maybe, I don't know how many of you are good readers, but you have just come across any article on this topic. Anybody? Okay, let's have this thing. If anybody wants to say something, you can just raise your hands, so that way it will become easier for me to, see all the participants. Anybody who has read this topic, seen this topic, or ever heard this topic in any FTP before, any seminar before? Nobody. This is quite surprising. In fact, very surprising. Nobody.
It's basically the kind of, I've not read much on this, to be very honest, but what exactly the servant leadership is, that, where the previously what leaders used to get things done amicably with the followers, with the help of followers. In this, they are basically helping the followers to achieve the goal. This is what my understanding is, or maybe I'm not very sure. These are to serve, like when we are talking about servant leadership.
Okay, ma'am. So now,
Hi, Professor. This is Professor Devika. Servant leadership is basically, I think, it's reinventing the wheel. We've been talking about it in different ways: charismatic leaders, different styles. A democratic leader. The only change in this concept is that we are trying to train the leaders to understand that enjoying power is one thing, misusing is another. You are there to help people to grow and achieve the organization's goals, not the other way around. So it's not about, it's no more about followers. It's about creating leaders within, every individual. So you're basically serving the people you're working for, and who are with you in the organization. That's basically servant leadership.
Okay. So I guess you have some idea on servant leadership, and people who are not having any idea on it, do not worry. I will make sure that by the end of the session, you will be very, very clear with these two terms, deception and servant leadership. Okay, so let's start the session today. So today I thought of going in a bit different way. Since the concept is new, I presumed it would be new for many of you. So what I'm going to do is, the first 1 hour, I'm going to talk about different aspects, different concepts. And the next 1 hour, I have a small presentation again, but again, it's just of graphics. They're just, it will just help you in getting clear with the concepts, which I will be teaching you in the next 1 hour. Okay. So let me just first take up the concepts that I'm going to talk about. I'll be sharing my screen. Is my screen visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, wait a second. I cannot. Okay. Can I move? Yeah, I can move across. Okay. So let's go by this topic one by one. Okay. Let's first understand what is deception. Okay. Though I know I've written it over here, but without reading the definition on the screen, I want you to tell me what you think is the literal meaning of deception. You are free to browse it on internet. You can check on your phones, you can use Merriam-Webster, you can use any dictionary, and just tell me what you understand when I say I use deception.
Which is not there, which is not.
Ma'am, it means to cheat someone.
Okay, if we can go one by one. Again, okay. So somebody saying cheating someone. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yes, Drishti, ma'am.
Yes, good morning, ma'am. So for me, deception without, like going for any dictionary or something, a general meaning that comes to my mind would be like the other faculties have also rightly said, to cheat someone or to hide the facts or to manipulate the situation with a negative connotation attached to it. So that's it.
Yes, Soumya ma'am, very good morning.
I'm
Renu. Actually, it is tricking someone, like suppose I am 40 and I'm telling everyone that I am 30.
Okay. Now, let me tell you, see, you are right, but I will not say cheating somebody, because today, in majority of my lecture, I'm actually going to talk about the positive aspects of deception. You will be very amazed to know this, that I'm saying deception is good. But we'll talk about that towards the latter part. Let me first build the foundation of what I'm going to talk about. So what is deception? In simple words, yes, if you find it on dictionary, you may find it means to deceive. But if you get into the deeper side of it, what is deception is you are projecting an image which you believe is not true. I hope the audience will agree with me. I'm saying you're projecting something which is not true. This is deception. Would you agree with me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Now, just check out the definition which is there on the screen. What it says. It's a deliberate attempt to make people believe what is known to be false. Now, there are three aspects of it. One, it is a deliberate attempt. When I say deliberate attempt, means it's an intentional thing, right? You are doing it deliberately. Why you are doing it? You are doing it when you know that the information is not true. And still you are quoting it just with the purpose of making the other person believe in something which you know is not a reality. This is deception. Let me ask you, everybody, how many of you think or believe, we are all following the Gandhi philosophy, honesty is the best policy. But tell me one thing, in today's world, in fact, as an individual, have you been completely honest? Have you been 100% honest? Can anybody say that?
Not really. Not really. Especially in the organizations where they have targets to achieve, nobody is.
Yes.
Even in what they are promoting.
Ma'am, actually, we are manipulating the facts.
Absolutely.
And we are misleading ourselves as well. I think so.
Let me give you an example of a small child. A child knows when to manipulate, okay? He knows if my mother is not agreeing to the thing, then let's go to the father and ask, okay? And for example, the simple examples, I'm sure you must have seen it at your homes. Your child is not studying, okay? But he will say, no, I'm studying on, I'm doing my homework. But actually, in reality, what he is doing is he's playing video games on the phone, or he is just, reading a comic book. So what is happening? In fact, you yourself as an individual must have done deception. For example, can anybody give an example from your personal life of deception? Anybody? Maybe from your household activities or something?
Yeah, I can, ma'am. So when my kid was very young and they were watching this Doraemon series, and I never used to appreciate that she should watch. So till the time she was, I think 3.5, I started telling that water sprinkler in the house is I used to tell that, if at all this is a camera and you will be watched, if you watch Doraemon, the TV will go off. And actually for 2 years she could believe it, then she didn't. She stopped watching Doraemon.
Right. And what was your intention behind using this deceptive strategy?
Because I didn't want, otherwise there was no way I could have stopped her, because it is an access.
Your intention was good, right?
Yeah.
And you believe that what you did was right?
I think yes.
Okay, very good. See, this is what I hope everybody is connecting with me, what I'm trying to say here. Let me tell you one more thing. Many of the times you must have used the deception with the elderlies also at home. Elderlies belong to a different culture, different environment. Many a times it happens that they believe in a theory which you don't believe in. They say that let's wear things like that. Let's go do things like that. You do not agree to that. But just because you do not want to get into any confrontation with them, you do not want to argue, there is no point of, explaining things, because they have a different cultural background and you have a different cultural background. Many a times you say it's okay. You say, okay, fine. Yes, the things are the way you are saying it. Has it happened with anyone? That you go with the acceptance of what they are saying, even though you know somewhere inside it is not true. Has it happened with you as an individual?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sure it's a very common thing. It must have happened with everybody at homes itself. See, this is individual deception we are talking about. This is the reality of deception. It's not just cheating alone. It just means saying something or doing something which you know is not true. That is deception. So the same thing happens at a very big level, that is at the organizational level also. Now, if I ask you what are the characteristics of deception, can I say that deception is a continuous and a pervasive phenomena? Yes. Can I say deception is a continuous and a pervasive phenomena? Think and then answer.
Ma'am, maybe it depends on the situation.
Depending upon a situation. What is the situation you're talking about here?
Like in organization, sometimes, you know,
it can be intermittent, madam. As and when trigger happens, this can happen. I remember from school days, when the teacher will ask who has not done homework, and they used to get beatings. Few people will lie that copies at home, I have done homework, and other people learn from it. If I say copies at home, I will not get beatings. And as and when this situation arises, it's not like for everybody, same answer will be given.
Right. So Ashish sir, what you are saying is basically, what I'm trying to say here is that it is not a unique phenomena. It's a continuous thing, both at an individual as well as at the organizational level. As an individual, we are doing it in a daily life, every day, every single day. And the organizations are also doing it on us every single day. As well as it's pervasive in the sense it is applicable in all type of organizations, be it a hospitality industry, tourism industry, education industry. You are working with your colleagues. So many times it happens, you know, that the colleague is not saying the right thing. But if you say it on his face, it won't be a good thing, right? So you say it's okay. Let it be like that. It doesn't matter. You know, sometimes, many times it happens, you know, you work with all sort of people. And then you realize that there's no point of saying it's better to show my work and then talk. So that is how the things are, that sometimes, but in fact, it happens with your students also. You know, a student has done something not good, you know, and still you say, no, beta, you have done it good. Don't worry. You have a better potential and you can do it further. Many times, just because you want to instillate, you want to stimulate motivation in that student. So you use positive psychology with that student. Many times you must have done it with your own kids also at home. A kid has not performed well and you are angry at your kid actually, that why has he not performed well? But still you would say, because you are seeing that he's feeling so low, he's feeling so unhappy, he's feeling so sad and guilty. You say, okay, it's a small thing. You have at least tried to achieve this much. See, look at your results. And I'm sure you will do even better. But somewhere inside you, you know that you are actually very angry at your kid. What have they actually done in terms of their performance? So this is what I'm saying is a common phenomena. It's a pervasive phenomena applicable everywhere in all type of organizations. Now, my simple question to you is, why do you think deception happens? होता क्यों है? Are people so foolish? क्यों deceive हो जाते हैं? What do you think? ऐसा क्या होता है कि people get deceived? आप लोगों के साथ भी हुआ है, मेरे साथ भी हुआ है. So many people have deceived me. My question is, why am I getting deceived? क्यों होता है? Anybody who can answer that?
Ma'am, may I?
Yes, Priya ma'am.
Yeah, good morning, ma'am. I think we have this, we don't want to get hurt. You know, we have this mechanism that, because sometimes in our personal relationship also, see, if you're hurt or you're cheated once, twice, but you again start believing in that relationship again. So even with students category also, I feel sometimes you know that the student is a problem maker. So, but still you want to give, you know, some goodness is there in you as an academician. You want to give that child a chance again and again. Okay, so specifically, I'll tell you this, like specifically today, we all are using WhatsApp as a mode of communication. Now, maybe the academicians are not even aware that, you know, some of the messages are taken as screenshotted and then it has been shared and, you know, you are manipulated. You are aware about that, but you still keep repeating, doing the same things again and again. So maybe we also do it deliberately because we don't want to, we are not accepting the fact that, you know, this is something wrong. So like what you said, deliberate attempt to make people believe what is known to be false. It is known to be false, but not as per my the way I am perceiving it, for me, it is no, it is not false. Let's give it a try.
Absolutely, Priya ma'am. So like you said, that you believe that people get deceived because they don't want to be hurt. I would put things in a different way. There's a theory on it. Devika ma'am, I'll just come back to you shortly. So there's a theory on it, which I think you can see on my screen, TDT, Truth Default Theory. Truth Default Theory says that it's a research actually which has been done, and it finds out that the reason is because majority of the people, they believe that the other person is acting honestly. So you do not have suspicions against that person. You do not have any kind of reasons to doubt the activities. That is the reason you often believe and you get deceived. So what I'm trying to say is truth default theory. By default, you presume that the other party you are dealing with is saying the truth. This is the human mindset, human psychology, which results in deception, which results in being deceived. Then there's another theory, which is interpersonal deception theory. If you can see on the slide again, which talks about that, you know, it was a research which has discovered that it's only 54% of the chances that people are able to identify that they are being deceived. So I'm talking about two different things. One, I'm saying people get deceived because they believe that the other person is acting in complete honesty. And second is the chances of detecting deception is only 54% in interpersonal relationships. So why is it? That means often we feel so proud of ourselves. We say that it's very easy to, nobody can deceive me. I can read out the verbal cues. I can read out the non-verbal cues, the body language. You know, there are sometimes certain signals that people give you when they are deceiving you. For example, they will be very anxious. You know, when your system is overloaded with a lot of lies, what happens? You feel a lot of anxiety comes out. Or you will start behaving ambiguously. Ambiguity will come into your conversation. So that ultimately gives rise to suspicions. So on the side, we have certain called leakages. If you can see here, what are leakages I'm talking about? These are there on the side of both sender as well as on the side of the receiver. On the side of the sender, the leakages are in the form of the signals which they end up giving. Okay, the doubts which they end up giving. And on the side of the recipients, the leakages can be in the form of the suspicions they end up developing of the possibility of deception. However, the reality, it has been observed that detection of deception is very, very low. As I quoted you, only 50%, 0.5%. So my first question to you is, why do you think that people deceive? And I think some of you were answering that we do not want to hurt the other party. We do not want to hurt we do not want to spoil the relationship that we have with the other party. So there are 3 possible reasons which I will like to quote that why people deceive. Again, this comes from the theory. The first reason they say definitely is to have long-term relationship with the party. They do not want the relationships to go sour, because of which they adopt the deception mechanism. The second reason is they want to, prevent the face of somebody. So you know that your leader has done something wrong, and you do not want that leadership effect is disclosed to the outer environment. So as a result, you may be involved into something called as deceptive activities. So the purpose behind this deceptive activity is you want to prevent what is going wrong. I hope everybody is along with me and you are agreeing to what we are talking about. So just to get the hold of things, what I have said is, I talked about truth default theory, that people believe in that the other person is acting with complete honesty. I talked about people have failed to detect that they are being deceived. I've talked about leakages, that how senders sometimes end up giving signals to the recipient that he is deceiving the other party. And sometimes the recipient also end up getting suspicions that the other party is deceiving them. And then finally, I'm just asking you that what reasons are there that people deceive? I told you the first reason is having long-term relationships. The second reason is that that they do not want that the party to form a false image, or basically you can say impression. Impression can also be the reason because of which they deceive, that they do not want the impression to go back. And thirdly, for the achievement of goals. Sometimes for achieving your objectives, you have to deceive. Anybody has any comment on this before we talk about the next thing? Anybody want to talk about? Yes, Priya ma'am, surely.
I wanted to ask that if knowingly you're hiding something, so is it a form of deception? Because I believe as long as you're not caught, or like sometimes you need to hide. So for example, now during COVID, if you see in a family where both the parents are admitted in the hospital and suddenly your elderly parents are in the house and death happens and you don't want to inform them immediately. So you're hiding the truth out here. So is it a form of deception?
Yes, ma'am, definitely. Let's go back to the definition itself. You are hiding. Okay. Now coming to this point only, how do we do deception? There are 3 strategies which are being, again, the research mentions about the 3 mannerisms of doing deception. One is the one which you have just mentioned, that is concealment of the reality. So the 3 facts are, one is you actually give the false information. One is that you are concealing the reality. And the third way is ambiguity, leaving things in abstraction. Let's talk about each of them one by one. So first is that you are giving the false information. You go to the interview and you say that you are a merit holder, but the reality is that you were never a merit holder. You were just an average student in your college. So what you are doing is you are giving a false information. This is a simple example of deception. Then, like you said, ma'am, during COVID, a lot of information is not being revealed. And this is what happens in reality. And this is what even we do it as a consumer also. If you're going to, suppose you're going to buy a laptop in the market, okay? You do not go to only one shop. You generally go and browse in 2-3 shops. And then what happens? You end up getting a lot of information on models, information on better pricing. But in order to have a better negotiation, what you do you go there? I am sure it must have happened with many of you. You say that that samne wala shopkeeper to aapka kam, that he's giving at a lower rate. Why are you charging such a high price from us? Or you sometimes quote that the product is available at a lower price on Amazon or online. Why are you charging me such a heavy price? So this is here, either you're quoting false information, or many a times you say that that better price is available at a market next to you. Still you behave like you have no information about the product. So you are concealing information. You're concealing what you already know about the thing. It is also a kind of deception. Do you agree with me? Somebody's audio is on. I request you to please keep it off. Do you agree with this?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Right? So yeah. This is another kind of deception. So yes, Priya ma'am, I think you are getting the answer now. Yes, concealment is a deception. Okay. So if you're not, the biggest example is, let's go back to Mahabharata again. Mahabharata mein there is a scene jab Yudhishthir bolte hain ki Ashwadhama mara gaya. What do you think? Is it not a deception?
Yeah, complete Mahabharata was a deception.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, it is.
So, kis tarah ka deception hai? Is it a concealment? Is it abstraction? Or is it false information?
False information.
Abstraction kind of.
It's concealing. It's concealing.
It's not false information actually. क्योंकि उन्होंने जो बोला था वो सच है. अश्वत्थामा मारा गया था, but उन्होंने ये नहीं बताया अश्वत्थामा हाथी था जो मारा गया.
Yeah.
Not the son. So he said the partial truth, right? So this is what I'm talking about. This is a type of, and see what happened. What were the repercussions of that? Dronacharya, they were able to kill him because of this one small act. Can you see the repercussions? So this is what I'm talking about, that deception can be through concealment also, and it can be through abstraction also. Anybody who has any example of abstraction of deception, ambiguity of deception? There's a very interesting example I have, but I will quote it later. I want somebody to give me any personal experience on it. Anybody?
Like when we buy toothpaste, they will ask, "Aapke toothpaste mein namak hai?" And they will say, ki, "Okay, this is what we are offering," but there is no sign of existing of the salt in the toothpaste. That's what I can think of.
Okay, Swati ma'am, but I think that we can put it probably either in the false information, I think so. It won't be an example of abstraction. I'm saying something that you are, you're quoting ambiguously and which is leading to deception.
Ma'am, may I? Vidya.
Yes, Vidya ma'am, sure.
When we buy financial products, there will be these statements running into number of pages, which we will not have enough time to read, understand, interpret. It is in the part of the seller that he has a commitment to display all the information to the consumer. We are not in a position to read everything, understand. We just go into the number of signatures where they mark like 15 signatures, 20 signatures, and which is liable.
Very nice example, Vidya ma'am. Bahut acha example. Balki now I reminded from my personal experience one more example, which you just quoted. उसी से related है. I remember once I just went to shopping, just like you go to pantaloons and all these places. And generally they apply that these are the vouchers that you can claim, and नीचे छोटा सा लिखा होता है TNC apply. And then when you go, actually, now this is ambiguous. They say that voucher is there and this much off is there. But उन्होंने ये clear नहीं किया है कि वो किस किस पे है or what are the conditions. Now later on when you are going for billing, you are getting to know that this offer was actually limited only to this line of apparels and not the other line of apparels. So again, now they are not concealing things. उन्होंने disclose किया है. They are mentioning कि TNC apply. They are not even giving any false information, but what they are doing is ambiguity. I hope this is what Vidya ma'am you are trying to say, and I think same thing goes with your financial products. Absolutely, when you are taking an insurance or policy, or when you are going for mutual funds buying, I think मुझे ad याद आ रही है mutual funds वाली, जिसमें वो used to go on like बहुत ही fast जाके they used to say TNC applying, things like that used to come up on television advertisements. I think this is what you are trying to say, Vidya ma'am, right?
Yes, ma'am, exactly.
एक और example मैं देती हूँ, again from my personal experience. Once I was taking interviews of students from, for selection into a program, and these were the students, and generally what happens in our, students are very active these days. उनका CV आप देखो, they are quite brilliant. Every person, every student is quite brilliant. 10 societies में काम किया होता है. इतना exposure उनको at this young age they have. So now, interestingly, the student says, I was holding the president position in this society. अब सामने वाले interviewer को क्या लगेगा? Oh my God, person has worked so much. He was at this position in this society. But actually, in reality, you get to know if you dig a little deeper, what was the work that society was doing. It was just raising sponsorship. That's it for the event. Are you trying to understand? This is again ambiguity. He was not concealing things. सच बताया मुझे, president position थी, concealment भी नहीं थी, everything was disclosed, but ambiguity क्या थी, काम क्या किया वो नहीं पता था. Similarly, आपने बहुत बार job profiles पे देखा होगा, जब companies job profile disclose करते हैं, आजकल तो ये trend बन चुका है. It's very funny, but it is becoming a trend now. बहुत fancy words use करे होते हैं. You'll be a market analyst, you'll be a research associate, but actually में work क्या दे रहे होते हैं? What profiling they are giving to the candidate? Has it happened with somebody? So this is also abstraction. You are deceiving through ambiguity. Yes, Priya ma'am?
Ma'am, deception in Mumbai is like it's like smuggling. 13 years back in Andheri Seeps, Andheri area, there was this advertisement in the newspaper. So generally, most of the management students were called out there. Whether you're from HR background or marketing or finance, they were taken into a huge classroom kind of area in their office. And the owner or, the MD of the company used to come, and he used to speak like he's from IIMs, and he left his well-paid job to start the business out here and to serve for Save the Children. I don't know how many of people are, how many of you are aware about that. Then in Save the Children, they used to actually, they used to tell the HR candidates that what is the role of an HR. So, you know, the role of an HR is recruitment, training, development. But then for role of an HR, you need to understand that what are our products and services. For that, you need to go on field and you have to market to understand our services. And this is how they, you know, it was because many students were freshers. So they believe to get into an HR profile, you need to do marketing. So that level of deception was done, and the training was like you need to crash into big societies and colonies like Dadar Parsi colony, and you need to meet in people, and you need to show in photographs of children, those who are not wearing clothes and they are malnourished. So that level of deception happens out here, which we tend to believe, and that is emotional deception, which even in your advertisements you will be seeing. So this is one very big experience which I shared with all my students, that do not walk into any place and do not believe that any IIM management student will leave his lucrative job and start something like this and go door to door and sell, you know, try to pitch people for Save the Children and give us donation. So this was a deceptive.
Very right, ma'am. And ये जो आपने कहा है, even I have faced this in a different way, definitely not to the level that you have mentioned it. But ये मैंने देखा actually होता क्या, especially in graduation की students में, in fact postgraduate students also behave in that way. You know, the excitement of getting their first job is too high. So as a result, they, you know, they do not go through the things in detail. And whichever company comes to the campus, they sit through it and they just want to start earning. Because of this reason, what happens, you know, companies are able to deceive them. Emotionality, आप कह सकते हो, emotional deception. तो profiling जो वो देते हैं, इसीलिए I even tell my students, in fact, all the teachers should be doing the same thing. Tell your students that whenever they are sitting for any placement to any company, please do your homework properly. Read about that company. आजकल तो मैम इंटरनेट पे सब कुछ अवेलेबल है. There are sites जो employees are putting their work experiences online. तो आजकल companies know. आप LinkedIn पे देख सकते हो, Facebook पे देख सकते हो, किसी साइट पे आप खोल के देखो, people are putting up the experience about the company. ऐसे कैसे Google is coming as #1 company, as great place to work for, because everybody knows the experience of working in Google is phenomenally good. So वो चीजें हैं कि you tell your students to know about the company profile, क्या position दे रहे हैं, क्या काम है, tell them to talk to their seniors. Tell them to, you know, talk to the employees if possible, anybody working in the organization. And even if not that, at least go through the profile, website अच्छे से पढ़ो, social sites देखो, know what work you are being offered, and then go and sit for the company. I think that is what you want to say, Priya ma'am, right? So that if you are being told that you have to go for HR, you better sit for HR and you do not end up doing some these marketing activities. Right, Priya ma'am?
I want to say that don't get manipulated so fast. Just because in Jab We Met, Kareena Kapoor was wearing pajamas in the train, that became a trend in Mumbai. That might not become a trend in Delhi. So it's like depending, see, in every city, the culture is different and the level of deception is very different. Out here, you need to survive. So I feel that do not let yourself manipulate so fast. And as academician, let us give the students reality. That this is what the outside market is. It is not as safe as how it is in your college campus. So,
absolutely. Absolutely, Priya ma'am. Absolutely. I think people who are watching this are going to take a note of it. And at least we as individuals, all the 120 participants sitting over here, we can, you know, make sure that our students do not end up getting into such kind of traps. Surely. Thank you, Priya ma'am, for sharing such vital information.
Thank you, ma'am.
So now, I think with so many examples, now everybody knows that deception is a normal phenomena. We know why people are doing it and how people are doing it. Now, let me talk about a term called strategic deception. Now, here I'm going to talk about something positive on deception. You know what? Many companies realized that we cannot stop deception. It is happening. It will happen. It has happened. So let's just normalize it into our culture, into our structure. So I'm talking about 3 terms: institutionalization, rationalization, and socialization. People said, we need deception. Deception जरूरी है. Okay, let's first understand कि deception क्यों जरूरी है. हमने इतनी बात करी कि deception गलत है, deception नहीं करना चाहिए, ये वो क्या repercussions है. Let us try to understand कि deception जरूरी क्यों. Number one, deception kabhi it's important to create an impression. Sometimes employee may be really very good. Ab interview mein he is competing with 1,000 people out there. He has to create an impression. He is required to use deception. Yes, it is not wrong. Agar aap student ke point of view se dekho, wo CV mein mujhe dal ke de raha hai, he is the president of a society. It is not a wrong thing which he is doing. He is creating a deception. He is trying to create an impression on me. Sometimes it is required for confrontation. आप confrontation avoid करना चाहते हो, conflicts avoid करना चाहते हो. Like I told you, many a times we as an individual do it with our elderlies at home. हमें पता है उनके beliefs अलग है, उनका cultural environment अलग है. So we say, okay, what you are saying is right. Deep inside we know it is not right. Now the world has changed. So this is, again, we are doing it to make sure we do not get into any kind of conflicts. This same thing happens in the organization also. Negotiations, bargaining. जब आप किसी क्लाइंट से टेंडर्स की बात करते हो, तो आपको हो सकता है you have much more information than what is being presented to you. आपको ज्यादा information है, लेकिन still you stay silent or you try to understand what they are trying to portray before you. So why you are doing it? So that because you have more information, you can negotiate better. In fact, share trading में यही होता है. People who have more information tend to gain. So deception can be beneficial in terms of negotiations also, in terms of relationship building, in terms of empathy. Now, this is a part where I'm going towards servant leadership. जब उसके बारे में बात करेंगे, then we'll talk about it. But empathy की क्या है? Deception कभी-कभी empathy के लिए जरूरी है. Example दिया मैंने आपको. आपका खुद का बच्चा अगर बोल रहा है कि I have scored very low today, mama, and I'm really sorry, and he's crying. अब आप उसको झाड़ लगाओगे या उसको बोलोगे नो बेटा इट्स ओके, यू हैव डन गुड, सी आपने कितना अचीव किया है, एंड आगे आप और अचीव करोगे. तो दिस इज अगेन यू आर बिल्डिंग एम्पैथी विद योर चाइल्ड थ्रू डिसेप्शन. सो डिसेप्शन एडवांटेजेस भी है, सिर्फ उसके नेगेटिव रिपरकशंस है ये बात सच नहीं है. ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस ये समझ चुकी हैं एंड देयरफॉर दे आर सेइंग लेट्स हैव स्ट्रैटेजिक डिसेप्शन. Let's build it in our institute, a culture and a structure of deception. And कैसे करेंगे? Can you give examples? Like marketing का मैं example देती हूँ. Marketing में from day one, when any fresher joins it, क्या बोला जाता है? आपको product sell करना. अब आपको प्रोडक्ट सेल करने के लिए, जैसे मैम ने भी बताया कोलगेट में नमक नहीं है, या मार्केटिंग में आप बहुत बार ऐसी चीजें बोलते हो जो आपको पता है कि ट्रू नहीं है. आप एग्जैजरेशन इज आल्सो अ फॉर्म ऑफ डिसेप्शन. एग्जैजरेट करके चीजें बताते हो. तो ये क्या है? ये मार्केटिंग में एक इंस्टीट्यूशनलाइज हो गया है. आप नहीं सेल कर सकते प्रोडक्ट विदाउट डिसेप्शन. सो डिसेप्शन हैज बिकम इंस्टीट्यूशनलाइज्ड एज अ पार्ट ऑफ कल्चर एंड स्ट्रक्चर इन द मार्केटिंग बिजनेस. रैशनलाइजेशन, आप कन्विंस करते हो कि जो हम बोल रहे हैं वो सच है, और डिसेप्शन मतलब आप ये कन्विंस कर रहे हो एम्प्लॉइज को, बॉस कन्विंस कर रहा है कि हमें डिसेप्शन करना जरूरी है. रैशनलाइज कर रहे हो कि व्हाट वी आर डूइंग इज अ राइट थिंग. जैसे अभी मैम बता रहे थे कि उन्होंने अपने बच्चे को डोरेमोन का बोला कि आप ये डोरेमोन देखोगे तो ये हो जाएगा. सो व्हाट इज शी डूइंग? शी इज कन्विंसिंग हरसेल्फ और टू मी that what I have done is right because it is in the better interest of my child. This is rationalization. That you are using deception and you rationalize it. That it is in the good interest. And thirdly, socialization. जब भी newcomers join करते हैं, आप उनके अंदर भी ये habits imbibe कर रहे हो. आप उनको day one से सिखा रहे हो कि we have to use deception because it's a part of our culture. It is the part of our business. Like I told you about insurance agents, for example. Day one से उनको बोला जाता है if you want to sell, you have to be manipulative. Otherwise, you can't sell. I hope everybody agrees. Archana ma'am, आपका hand raised है बहुत time से. I think you are willing to say something. So you want to share something, Archana ma'am? Archana ma'am? Okay, I think maybe her hand is raised by mistake then. Okay, anybody wants to say something on it? Then otherwise I'll move to the next thing.
Ma'am, I would like to Vidya here.
Yeah, Vidya ma'am.
Ma'am, it is like using filters and concealers to a photograph that we want to put up as a status or a profile picture on WhatsApp and Facebook. Like, it is okay to an agreeable extent where we cannot morph a photograph and use. So that is wrong. So ethically doing things is okay. That is what we have been discussing, rationalization.
Yeah, ethically I won't say. मैं यहाँ पे positive way में कह रही हूँ विद्या मैम. मैं यहाँ पे ये कह रही हूँ कि हम rationalize. मैं ये कह रही हूँ कि deception जरूरी है. आप deception नहीं करोगे उसके बिना आप जी नहीं सकते हो in today's world. It's necessary. 100% honesty के साथ आप काम नहीं कर सकते हो. लेकिन deception के पीछे intention क्या है वो matter करती है. तो कंपनी से रियलाइज कर रहे हैं कि डिसेप्शन, हम बोले किसी बच्चे को कि ये मत करो मत करो मत करो, उसकी जगह आप ये बोलो कि आप करो, बट करो विद अ गुड इंटेंशन. सो उसको करने के लिए कि वो अच्छी तरीके से हो, इट इज बीइंग ब्रॉट इन अ बेटर वे. द बेटर थिंग इज यू इंस्टीट्यूशनलाइज इट and you channelize it in the direct way through rationalization. That is what I am saying with them.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes, Paramjeet sir.
Ji, ma'am. Ma'am, what I think is adaptation is new deception, because of the way you adapt to new normal or new things, there's also a kind of deception itself.
Absolutely. Adaptation is
adaptation
new.
is adaptation that calls for like something for a positive change. And that's what deception does for many of us.
Absolutely, very right. Adaptation is also one of the consequences of deception. आप peer pressure कह सकते हो. Simple example. Sometimes just to go with the peers, to go with your colleagues and to settle in, आप बहुत बार ऐसी चीजें accept करते हो जो आपकी ideology के against है. So that is one simple example. आप एक vegetarian हो, you have never eaten non-veg and you have never even been with anybody who is eating non-veg. But under peer pressure, you sit with that and then gradually you develop a thinking that no, non-veg is just like a food for any other vegetarian. Just like vegetarians खाना खाते हैं, non-vegetarians खाते हैं. So there is nothing wrong with that. So this is also another kind of a thing that आप अपनी ideology change कर लेते हो. So yes, deception can lead to adaptation also. Yes, sir. I think this is what you are trying to say, Paramjeet sir.
Absolutely, ma'am. Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. Now, ma'am.
Sorry for interrupting. So there's a request from participants to keep English as the language for communication.
Okay. Thank you, Vada, for informing me, and thank you all the participants. Sometimes it's a normal thing that we just go back to our native language. I will try my best to, and you know, whenever this is happening, because I also do not realize it, that if I switch my language, you can just raise your hand and you can stop me in the between. I will not mind. It will be the right thing to do. Okay. So I hope now I'm clear to everybody. Okay. So anything that you want me to repeat, which I have already talked about and was not clear to anybody over there? Any concept which you want me to repeat because of my switch of language, if it is not clear to you? Anybody? Okay. So Swati ma'am, you want to say something?
No, it's all good, ma'am. It's all clear.
Okay,
Thank
fine
you.
then. So now I'm going to quickly move on to a very important topic, and believe me, these days this topic is a big hit. That is leadership and self-deception. Very, very, very big hit topic. So deception can be in two ways. It can be towards self and towards others. When I say I'm deceiving myself, it is self-deception. So when I say self-deception, what is self-deception? Self-deception is that you believe you are capable of things which you are actually not. Or you believe that you are underconfident. You cannot do anything, which is also actually not. So it can be both ways. So it's basically having a wrong image of oneself. Now, this is a big leadership crisis actually. Again, it's a research which, you know, supports the notion that 80% of the leaders are found to be ineffective, not because of the content, not because they have lack of knowledge or information, but because they were incapable of handling people, because of the self-deception. They understood, they were never willing to, listen to the other party saying that they can have faults or there can be certain things which they do not understand. So this is a big leadership crisis which we find with self-deception. To give you a small metaphor in this case, suppose there is a rug, I hope everybody understands, or let's suppose there is a carpet, okay? So one person sees that there was a bump on that carpet, and every time the person was trying to smoothen the carpet by, doing away with that bump. He was doing it again and again and again. And eventually he realized that he's not able to do that. What he did in anger, he just lifted the carpet. And then what he saw a cobra behind it. So he saw the cobra behind that carpet and he realized it's because of the cobra that the bump was there. So what I'm saying is that this is the reality in today's world. We all have that cobra inside us. It is this cobra which is causing the self-deception. And because of this self-deception, we are never able to smoothen ourselves. So this is the big problem, a big challenge for leadership these days. And the reality is, there are many courses you will find on Coursera and so many other online platforms which are talking about, let me make you a better leader. They are teaching leadership skills. They are teaching types of leadership. They are teaching communication skills. They are teaching you X, Y, Z. But what they are not teaching you is how to deal with this concept of self-deception. How to, avoid self-deception. Anybody has a strategy to deal with self-deception? How I can avoid self-deception? How I can ensure that I'm not being self-deceived?
May I?
Yes, Anupma, ma'am.
Ma'am, maybe through communication and taking continuous feedbacks from peer and our
critics,
maybe superiors.
Yes, so as people say that keep your enemies closer rather than keeping your friends, because your enemies will give you best criticism in your life, and that is how you self-improvise. Very good, Anupa ma'am, but the problem here is ego issues. We all are human beings and we are never welcoming the criticisms. So what to do?
Ma'am, another can be mindfulness when we go to self-reflection. Of course, that will come with the practice, but maybe self-reflection and being a little more mindful of everyday behavior.
This is the topic I'm going to... Acceptance. This is the topic I'm going to talk about. Self-awareness, meditation, the mindful programs. This is what we need today. After pandemic, government has even announced that in schools and colleges, there now need to be introduction of a lot of mind management courses. A lot of self-awareness courses. Now, why people are switching towards happiness courses? Because they are realizing, self-deception we can beat this problem only when we are being more and more aware of ourselves. So this is what we need to teach the leaders today. We don't have to teach them competency. They already have. We don't even have to teach them skills majority of the time. But what we need to teach our bosses is how to be self-aware of themselves so that they could realize what they are doing, what they should not be doing. Yes, Rajendra sir? You were saying something? Okay. So I think now everybody has understood the problem of self-deception. Now let me talk about, as I was telling you, deception is of two types. One is towards ourselves and one is towards the other person. Now let's discuss the deception towards the other person. Again, I have a small story for you for that. So once what happened, there was a doctor in a very famous hospital. And in that hospital, there were 2 maternity wards. Okay. So in one maternity ward, the ratio of death was 1 to 10. And in the other maternity ward, the ratio of deaths happening was, 1 to 50. That means mortality rate was even lower. So now what happened, this maternity ward where the deaths were maximum, this doctor, he the moment any patient had any problem, he would adopt one method, the other method. He would keep on adopting different methods. Then, patients, what they used to say? They used to say, we do not want to be in this ward. We want to be switched to the other ward where the mortality rate is low. And one fine day, what happened? That doctor, he went on vacation. So while the doctor was there, the situation did not change. So there was one ward with low mortality rate. There was one ward with high mortality rate. And maximum attention of the doctor was being given in that maternity ward where the mortality rate was high. And the patients were demanding to be switched to the other maternity ward. So what happened? This doctor, he went on vacation. And when he came back, you know what he saw? That maternity, the mortality in that maternity ward, where it was very high, had gone drastically low. That now the mortality was no longer an issue. Can you tell me what change happened with the absence of doctor? Anybody who can tell me what was the change that happened with the absence of that doctor?
The instructions.
One by one, I'll take. Yes, Juin ma'am.
It is a fear of creating fear towards the.
Okay. Okay, one is the fear.
What is happening right now for the pandemic also? Many people are dying because of the fear.
Okay. Okay. Any other thing? Okay, ma'am, I get it. It's the fear. Yes, it's your own mind and the way you think things. It happens that way. Yes, that can be one theory. Anything else?
The supervision under which the staff of that particular ward was working under that particular doctor was they started using their own way of treatment and taking case by case some kind of empowerment, if you say that you get that.
Okay, no, that was not the thing. The reality is the patient realized that they are being used like objects. The day one, any doctor is trained in this way, that every human body is a body of organs. You do not have to see the feelings inside. You have to see them like body of organs. So whenever he had a case that, a patient is about to die, he was experimenting on them. Let's use this method. Let's use that method. So the patients were like objects to the doctor. So what I'm trying to say here is there was a deception being used by the doctor here in a way. Even if you are going and telling your patient, no, you are fine. We are trying our level best. Even if he is going and trying to show the empathy, the patients can feel that actually doctor is not showing empathy. They are deceiving the patients. The reality is the doctors are using them like objects. So the moment he was not there, this objectification was not there. And this resulted in the positive recovery of the patients. So what I'm trying to say is many a times when the deception can be your followers, in case of a leader, they feel the leader. Whatever are the feelings of a leader, it comes directly into the follower also. So if the leader is, just saying, no, you are doing very good, or he is like, he's using deception in a way that he's saying, your work is very nice. Why don't you complete this project also? This kind of objectification or this kind of feelings get into the followers, because followers not just see you as a person, they see the deep inside you also. The feelings can also get into you. So this was the one reason that this kind of a deception where the doctor was actually, he was not feeling empathetic. He was not having that empathy towards those patients. He was just treating them like objects, which resulted in this drastic transformation. I hope the participants agree to what we have discussed, or you have any other way around. And Juin ma'am, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. How should I go about pronouncing your name?
Yeah, it is Juhi actually, but I write Juin because I'm Bengali,
okay.
So it is Jui, N is silent. So I have to explain many.
Okay.
It is Juhi actually, but in Hindi you can say Juhi.
Okay, Joey ma'am. So as I was saying, Joey ma'am, and your theory is also right, that yes, it's ultimately it's the change of the mentality, the psychology, you can say the fear factor. It was also one of the reasons because of which now the doctors were not there, the fear factor was not there, and they were no longer treated like objects, that the recovery was faster. So anyway, so now since we have talked about all these things, let me now discuss on some other topics. Let us discuss about morality and deception. In the beginning of the lecture, somebody mentioned the word morality, and I said we are going to talk about it. Now, when I say morality and deception, so if I'm using deception, tell me, let me ask you, for example here, that if a leader is saying that, no, you have done good job, even if he knows that the work is not up to the mark, and he's just saying it to instill motivation into his followers. So I ask you here that, is it ethical? Is it unethical? What will you like to say regarding deception? When is it ethical and when is it unethical?
Ma'am, may I?
Yes, Anupma ma'am.
Ma'am, for me, it's not just about being ethical or not ethical, but I think it's important that feedback needs to be given at the right time in the right format. I think it's all about the kind of communication you're using. Based on my personal experience, I would like to say many a times we refrain ourselves from giving, the feedback. But what happens is that it starts getting piled up, and the day it reaches to the brim, and then when you give the feedback, then it really becomes like a confrontation, or it has a more negative impact. So I think small little feedbacks given in a proper way in routine are always more impactful than to let them collect and then give a feedback altogether.
Okay, Anupma ma'am, but right now, Rachna ma'am, please put your audio off. Rachna ma'am, please put your audio off. Rachna ma'am, I request you to please put your audio off. It is creating a disturbance here. Anybody from the management side? Varda ma'am, are you there? Can you look into it?
We request the participants to please mute themselves. Just a moment, I'll just...
Thank you. Okay, now here I will say that the theory says there are two things which we need to see. You are right that feedback is important. Sometimes I'm not saying that you have to use deception all the time. Obviously, honesty is the best policy. But sometimes what I'm saying is you cannot do away with deception. I'm talking about some positive points of deception. So what I'm saying, morality with deception here is, it is seen that whenever you are deceiving with an intention which is bringing good consequences, like that Doraemon example which the ma'am gave, and or whenever you are doing something with an intention of a utilitarian theory which says that is, it is in a good intention of a larger section of society, it says it is not wrong, it is good. Now I have a very interesting example. Have you all seen this movie Section 365 of Akshay Khanna? If anybody has seen that movie?
Yes, I've seen that.
In that movie, there is one quote. There is one quote which he gives. He says that reality is abstract. Reality is abstract.
Yes.
That is the thing what I'm talking about. So anybody who remembers the story and would like to brief the audience about it so that others could also know. Ganesh,
yes.
Sir, can you do that? Yes. Okay. Anybody? Yes, Swati ma'am, if you want, you can do that.
So it's basically on the sexual harassment case, which the main character has been fighting for a girl, but actually that person has not committed that crime, or that particular occurrence has not happened, but it has been portrayed in such a way that it has been believed by the court and by the society that, that it has happened, but actually it has not happened.
And what the consequences were, at the end, Akshay Khanna won the case. Okay, So it has been projected, the reality is projected like this, that it was a reality that she was actually harassed. But what was the reality? The reality was she was harassed, but in a different way. Yeah. The reality was that incident actually did not happen. So if you look into the ideology, ideally he should have not won the case. But if you go deeper into it, what happened to the girl was also a kind of harassment. So what he says is basically that what we see and what we believe are two different things. So what is right, what is wrong is a very subjective assessment. For law, whatever they follow is what is written in the words, okay? But sometimes the reality can be so difficult to interpret that you cannot say that if it's right or if it's wrong. To give you a simple example, a person, he is, stealing a loaf of bread for his malnourished child because his child is dying out of hunger. And the cops just, pick up that guy and he puts him behind bar. Now tell me, was he doing something wrong or was he doing the right thing by stealing the loaf of bread when the intention behind it was that he wanted to save his child from hunger? So this is the reality we are talking about. If you see from the cop's point of view, they are following law. They are, putting him behind bars because he has done the act of stealing. But if you see from the person's point of view, you would find it is inhuman. He was doing it for the hunger of his child. He was saving a life. So it was the right thing to do. So this is what the concept of morality and deception is. So deception and morality, it says it's very difficult. It's a very thin line to detect whether it's right or wrong. But it is said if it is leading to good consequences at the end, if it is in the interest of larger section of society, we say deception is good. In fact, the best example is of army also. Many a times what you see on your news is not reality. The reality is far behind it. But still the information is not conveyed to you. It's not communicated to you. Why? Because it is in the larger interest of the people. In fact, during pandemic times, the reality may be worse, but it is not being disclosed to us, maybe from the government side, or maybe in any other country, the same thing would be there. Why? Because it's in the larger interest of the public that it would invoke fear. It would invoke a situation which will go even further out of control. So that can be also one aspect of morality with respect to deception. So I think let's just see a couple of slides on deception first. And after that, I will touch the topic of servant leadership. So let me just show you a couple of slides on deception. I hope you all can see my PowerPoint presentation. Is it visible? Is the presentation visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So there are two quotes written over here. Why do you see the speck in your neighbor's eyes, but do not notice the log in your own eye? Though you see the 7 defects of others, we do not see our own 10 defects. Anybody who can tell me what I'm trying to communicate through this slide? What is the concept of deception that I'm communicating through this slide, which we have already talked and discussed about? Anybody? Look at the quotations, read them again.
Yes, basically, we don't look in our... so first quote says, ma'am, that why do you see the speck in your neighbor's eyes, but do not notice the log in your own eye? Basically, the shield or the kind of a layer which is in your own eye, which you can't see for yourself, but you're picking something from on others. This is what.
Okay.
Ma'am, this is self-deception.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So if you read them, I'm saying that we are trying to find faults with others when we have 10 faults in our own selves. So this is the problem with self-deception. We are not self-aware. We are just putting blame of things on others when we ourselves are responsible for the problems. So this slide is representing self-deception. Absolutely correct. Okay.
Hello, ma'am.
Yeah. Yes.
Actually, ma'am, can I ask some? If we can able to relate the term deception with ethics, can we say that the deception is always ethical or always it may be unethical. But ma'am, I can say that the deception is a positive influence, positively influencing our behavior, attitude, our morality. Or can I say
Yes,
that?
yes, Ganesh sir. There are two sides of a coin, head and tail. This is what I'm trying to talk about. Deception is good as well as bad. What depends is how you are using it. What is the intention behind it? So like you said, yes, there can be good aspects of deception. This is what I'm trying to tell you. I told you that you use it in many of the things. You use it in relationship building. You use it to show empathy. You use it in your bargaining power. So it is good. I'm not saying it is bad at all. Okay. So there are both the sides. It can be ethical. It can be unethical. I cannot say deception is always ethical. I'm not saying this. No, not at all. It can be unethical also.
Positive influence kind of.
Yes. We have to see the intention behind the real action. That's it. Okay. Now here, if you see the slide, it's talking about masking. So this is deception. So deception is both about internal masking and external masking. You are wearing a mask for others and you are wearing a mask for your own self. So internal and external masking. Then, oh, I think my presentation is stuck again. Fine. I will just put it like this then. Okay. Now, can you all see this? Like I told you that ambiguity also represents deception. We just discussed it. Many a times things are not, you are leaving things ambiguous. So this kind of an image, which I think will help you remember that abstraction is another form of deception. Perceptual deception. You can also have perceptual deception. So what perceptual deception, like the example I was giving you of a loaf of bread being, taken away by the guy for his hungry child. Now there's a perception involved. Okay, you can say that he was, the stealing is an act of, he was doing something wrong. But another thing is that you can justify yourself by saying, no, it was not wrong. I'm doing it in the larger interest of my child for his survival. So there can be perceptual deception also. Something which the ma'am quoted, the movie section 365 was also talking about. Then in the other slide, workplace deception. So I will just read out this. Anybody who can read this out? Just a minute. Anybody who can read this out? What is written over here? Anybody who will volunteer? Yeah, please read it.
I found a quick fix for our company's financial problems. I removed the red ink cartridge from the printer.
So what is happening?
So basically they are not showing that what exactly is in the red line. Under the red lines, they are not showing. And if you talk about the...
Okay, I have an interesting example of this. Have you seen Harshad Mehta Scandal? The series, which was there, I don't know, it was on which media?
Scam.
The Harshad Mehta. I'm not talking about the movie. I'm talking about the series. Yeah, it was on Netflix. So I remember there was this one incident of SBI in which what happens, they had this fraud of 5,000 crores. So what this man was doing, he was removing it from the file. He was changing the figure so that, it doesn't look like a 5,000 crores of scandal, right? So what is this? Don't you think it's a kind of deception? A workplace deception?
Yes.
So this is what this cartoon is talking about. Though it's talking about in a funny way. They are saying that we have a financial problem. So let's just do one thing. Let's remove the red ink from the printer. So there will be no red marks. We will not be, called upon for any problem at all. So this is also, I'm not saying it's ethical or unethical. Yes.
Okay,
yes,
Soumya ma'am, I have a question. Question is, what is difference between deception and fraud? Are they same, or can we say that a bigger deception is fraud?
I would say that fraud is a much bigger term than deception. So in the starting itself, people were saying deception is deceiving. I said, no, let's not define it this way. Let's not say it is deceiving. Deceiving, it will become the moment you have a malified intention. Your ethics are wrong. Your morality is wrong. Okay. And how we define morality, I just told you. We look at consequences. We see the impact of your actions. So if your morality of actions is wrong, then yes, your deception is leading to fraud. Okay. I hope I've answered your query.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you,
Upasana. Okay. Okay. Now, there's another cartoon you can see. Upasana, ma'am, can you please read this cartoon? The other one. This is an, okay, I will read it out. So this is an interview cartoon. So this lady is just asking this guy, why are you asking for such a high salary when you have no experience? And this guy is saying that, well, the job is so much harder when you don't know what you are doing. So these type of deceptions are also happening. Again, as I was giving example, that when you are taking interviews, your candidates, they are using deception. And this is a very common phenomenon of deception. And I'm not saying every time it is wrong. Again, you yourself must have used deception at your own interviews also. So these are different workplace deceptions. Then again, this is another interesting caricature. So anybody who will like to read this? Ganesh sir, can you read this?
How can we rebuild the trust of? Can we rebuild the trust of our customers? So that we could stop using misleading benchmark test to sell shoddy products that have hidden costs. And I heard someone say lie. Let's write that one down.
Okay, so basically again what is happening is they are brainstorming and this one person says that, you know, we should not be misleading our customers. You can take a marketing company's example. We should be telling them the reality. And this boss, what he is doing, okay, he says, okay, let me just jot down the first point is lie. So this is, we want to believe what we have in mind. We do not want to see what the others are saying. Another kind of deception, workplace deception. So we want to believe that what has been done, what is happening is the right thing to do. You know, in fact, how do we identify anything which is right or wrong? It's our culture, it is our value system, it's our personality, it is our upbringing, which makes us think about the distinction between right and wrong. So this is exactly what is happening in this particular cartoon. Okay, now here, if you look at this cartoon, what is happening? This guy, he's saying that I'm not happy with this company. Why? Because he's saying that my personal goals are not aligned with the corporate strategy. I want to be happy. And look what the boss is saying. He's saying, well, nothing along those lines is going to happen in this company. So what I'm trying to say through this cartoon is, if deception is not there in the workplace, if your boss says the truth every time, what will happen to the company then? So if I say I want to be happy and my job is not giving me happiness and my boss says, well, the job is like that, even I am not happy, you can't help it. What will happen then? Anybody? So can we go with this kind of honesty in the work environment? Anybody? Can we go with this kind of honesty?
We can't survive. No, we can't.
Okay, so so this is again the slide is telling that how important it is to have deception. Then okay, there's another.
I have one example in my life I had. Can I share?
Yes, sure, ma'am.
What happened long time back when I started my career, I am a HR person, but that time I did not have any job. I just completed my PhD. And then I was not getting any job. So in Bangalore, I started with doing some sales kind of job because I wanted to do something. So it was, though it was not my domain, but I enjoyed. It was a kind of selling the product, normal selling the product, and door to door it was. So I was not much habituated, but I started, I enjoyed. And the day one, they wanted us to say whatever actually it is not truth. So that is the training used to give us in the early morning. And we also used to go and tell the people, customers, the same thing. Lot of lies, you can say. So that is the way. And I will become a good seller. I become a good saleswoman, you can say, because I used to tell nicely all these lies, whatever been taught. But end of the day, I felt like company need to sell the product. And they are trying to convince the customer by saying it is good for, though all the product was good for the health related something.
Absolutely, Join ma'am. And in fact, I would like to say this thing here. See, again, ma'am, if the product is good, okay, and it is not having any repercussions, then there is nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
In fact, recently I remember the government has, made this compulsory for all the endorsers, all these brand endorsements that used to happen on the celebrity part. Earlier, they were not having any liability. Whatever they're endorsing is a market product, and whatever they are saying has nothing to do with it. Recently, I think the government had changed the norms regarding it. And they said that even the celebrities will have a liability if they're saying something which is not true regarding a product. So, right. So what here we are talking about is that, complete deception. Here, I would say, again, there are two sides. One way, like you are quoting here, no company can work with complete honesty. This I'm telling you is the reality. This is true. And I've just gave you one slide. If the boss comes and tells you that, no, I'm not enjoying work, you will also not like it. So you want somebody to say some good words, right? So that this is the reality of today. However, if you are doing complete unethical things, like your product is faulty, your product is going to give you skin rashes, your product is not in the good interest of the public, in the sense it will create health problems, then definitely you are doing a fraud. It's a fraudulent activity, and that is where the government intervention is required. The legal aspect is required. But otherwise, the small things, if you're talking about, I would say it's a normal routine activities. It's normalized. Deception is a strategy. It's a strategy adopted by a company. So I told you about strategic deception. Deception is normal. It's very normal, and we should not say that it is wrong. So if a company is telling you that this is a marketing strategy, ma'am, I would say that there's nothing wrong in it, unless and until it is not having any bad repercussions. I hope you will agree with me, ma'am. Okay. So now I want to show this particular diagram to you. So this diagram is basically representing self-awareness. So it's a case of self-deception. So we all are sitting in our boxes, and we have to move out of our boxes. And that is possible only when we make ourselves more and more aware about who we are. Now, I think we have talked a lot about this concept of deception. Now it's time to talk a little bit about servant leadership. Now, before I talk about servant leadership, I will quickly like to talk about certain concepts. Okay, so I am going to go for monologue for a couple of minutes now, because I have to see the time constraint also. So now, firstly, I'm going to talk about Hersey-Blanchard model. I hope, since all of you are teachers here, everybody must have read this model. On the one continuum, we see whether it's whether basically we have 4 types of leadership in this. You have supportive, you have directive, you have delegation, and finally you have coaching, right? So you have supporting, coaching, then delegation, and then the direction. Depending upon whether there is greater requirement on the people side, or there is a greater requirement on the task side. So basically what we are saying is, towards in the earlier years of the person, you adopt strategies like supporting and coaching, where you know that the person is new to the job and the person doesn't understand job. You adopt such kind of a strategies of supporting and coaching. But as you move towards the latter part of the job, when you know that he has learned how to do work, how to go about things, you change your strategy and you move towards delegation and you move towards direction. So there are different models. And I remember, in fact, Shaurya sir yesterday was discussing so many other leadership models with you. And he talked about all contingency theory, modern theory, trade theory, so many theories he was discussing with you. So towards the end, he explained you the 3 types of leaderships. That was transactional, transformational, and authentic leadership. So I will start on the leadership from these 3 points, and then I will move towards what we know as servant leadership today. So what is transactional leadership? As I think I remember from yesterday's lecture, sir was saying it's about achievement of goals. I will add one more word to it. Transactional leadership is about quid pro quo. When I say quid pro quo, it means it's about demagogues. It's about using demagogues, means you are using the fear or the prejudices of your followers. You are giving them a consideration in return for the achievement of the goal. So I'll give you more reward if you make me achieve this goals, is a kind of a transactional leadership. So their quid pro quo is there. Okay. But when we are saying transformational leadership, here you are not commanding power. You are actually commanding, respect from people. You are automatically, not in fact respect, I would say it's more of a like charismatic leaders. For example, Adolf Hitler, Indira Gandhi, they are examples of transformational leaders who leave an everlasting impact on you. However, there's another movement now. We are moving from transformational leaders towards servant leaders. What are servant leaders? Let me explain you the concept of servant leaders. Okay, first, let me just briefly tell you who are authentic leaders also. So authentic leaders is who, have to maintain a balance between power and value. That means they have power. That is the reason they are using their authority. They are leaders. However, they are very true to their value system. They will not compromise on their value system. Like Mahatma Gandhi, he was a true, authentic leader. So I hope everybody is clear with the difference between transactional, transformational, and authentic leaders. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So now let's understand the concept of servant leaders. So what happened? It was in the story happened in 1970s. There was this guy, Robert Greenleaf, and Robert Greenleaf was once reading a book, and the book was titled as Journey to the East. So what was happening? What was happening in that book, Journey to the East? He read there were a group of travelers, and they were traveling with a servant. So a servant was, doing everything for this group of travelers, and they were having a spiritual journey. So during the journey, one fine day, this servant, he just, leaves the entire group. He just vanishes. So the servant was, the entire group of travelers was completely dependent for their small things on that servant. And then what happens? One fine day, that servant is vanished. And eventually the travelers realized that servant was actually their spiritual leader. He was the one who was actually not just servicing them, but he was the one who was guiding them towards spiritual enlightenment. So when he read this book, Robert Greenleaf, he realized the concept of servant leadership. So servant leadership is that you are a servant first, and then you are a leader. That means here it says that the employees are the most important thing. People I'm working with, my followers are the most important thing, and goal is secondary. Are you trying to understand? In transactional and transformational leadership, we emphasize on achievement of goals. But when we say a servant leadership, he emphasizes on his followers, on the development of his followers, and through them he achieves the goals. So if I have to distinguish between servant leadership and transformational leadership, I would like to put it this way, that transformational leaders are selfish people. They are selfish. They are stimulating people, they're inspiring people, but the intention behind that inspiration is to achieve the goal. But the servant leaders, who are servant leaders? Let's have some examples. Dalai Lama is one kind of a servant leader. People who are following Buddhism, I think Daisaku Ikeda, they are servant leaders. Then Sri Ravi Shankar, They are servant leaders. So they are the people who are not just inspiring, motivating, stimulating their followers, but they really they are the well-wishers of their followers. So this is the concept we are talking about, that you are not just a transformational leader. You are not just thinking about your selfish objectives, but you are thinking about the good of your followers. Second big difference between your servant leadership and transformational leadership is of ethicality. In case of, I think I remember sir also quoting this in the yesterday's lecture, that transformational leaders many a time use unethical practices. This thing will never happen with case of a servant leader. He is always an authentic leader. He will never compromise with his value systems. So servant leaders always have empathy. He always thinks good for his followers, and he will always be having very strong morality. So anybody having any confusion regarding this servant leadership? What is servant leadership?
So, ma'am, we can also say the best way to lead the team is their way, not our way. Is something related to the servant leadership?
I'm not saying their way or our way. Ultimately, a leader is a leader. Okay, so he has to exercise power. Without power and without influence, he's not a leader, like sir was saying yesterday. So it's not their way. It's about guiding them to a way which is the most appropriate way for the follower. That is what I'm talking about. There are two ways. One is, see, here I will bring in deception now. So I'm bringing into the topic that deception is important for a person to be a leader, but how deception will differ for the transformational leader and how deception will be different for the servant leader. In case of transformational leader, he'll be using deception with the objective that goal is achieved. For example, if a person who is having a very charismatic person, he would say, let's take an example of Hitler only. Hitler, he influenced the complete Germany to kill Jews. Okay. He created this kind of a perception in the mindset of people. What they were doing is that we have to do away with this kind of population. Now he was charismatic, but was he really thinking good about the society? Was he moral? Was he ethical? No, he was a transformational leader, but ethicality aspect was not there. He was killing people at a large number. So this, what is happening I'm talking about is he was not a spiritual leader. But on the other side, if you talk about Martin Luther, or if you talk about any other, if you talk about any leader like Mahatma Gandhi. So what he did is in the interest of the society. What he did, so even, deception is used by leaders also. Even your servant leaders use deception. But there they are using it that my followers get on the right path. There the reason for deception is that my followers do what is right and my followers develop along with the achievement of the goals. I hope everybody is understanding the difference between servant leadership and transformational leadership now, and the use of deception. So
ma'am, if I can come in.
Yes, yes.
Why this very word servant has been used for depicting a kind of leadership or correcting? Why not followers leadership or something else? Why
Thank
this word?
Thank you, sir. So I'll tell you something. I was reading an article on it. There's a problem with the people. We do not want to read something unless and until it's eye-catchy. So generally, if I just put it like servant leader, to man mein kya aata hai? It brings a thought to my mind that servant leader means that, the person who is fulfilling the wishes of the management. So I am a servant to the management. I am an employee to the management. Whatever they say, I get it done. I achieve my goal. I'm a servant leader. This is the thought you might have, but it's the other way around. The reason why it is being named as servant is to imbibe the feeling into the person. That feeling is called stewardship. The feeling is of stewardship. The property is not of your own. This organization is not of me. It's of the people. The employees are a part of it. The prime minister, for example, or the president of the country, he cannot feel that I own the country. They need to feel that I'm the servant of the country. I'm working for the country. To imbibe this patriotism, this kind of a feeling, the word servant leadership is being used. Because servant is a very, it's very noble word. It's a word that signifies service. Yes, sir?
It's perfectly fine, ma'am. Okay. So Modi is the apt example for servant leadership, so to say. Or
yes,
is he deceiving us?
I will not like to give any political comment here. So I would rather say that, again, it is something which you people have to judge on your own, that who is a servant leader, who is not a servant leader. But yes, I would say every prime minister, every president, every head of the country, they are servant leaders. And every teacher of every institute, every principal of every institute is a servant leader. Unless and until they are servant leaders, they are not doing the job good. So you have to think yourself as a servant.
Samaya ma'am,
Hanji.
Sorry to interrupt. I don't know whether I'm right out here, but I worked under 2 directors. Okay, in this 13 years of career in academic, moving out of corporate. One director was a person who only used to call meetings and ask what is the status. The second director that I'm working under today, every month makes it a point to sit with all the faculty members individually and work on their API scores. How many papers have you written? How many FDPs are you attending? What is the takeaway from the FDP? So I think that one type of leadership, because both are leaders. When they are directors, they are leading the college. So both are leaders. One believes that I need to imbibe leadership quality in my team members. I need to create more leaders in my team. And the previous director believed that I need to, hold an authority and prove that, I am able to control my employees or get the work done. So I think second one would be an example. I'm not sure about it. Maybe the second example would be of a servant leader. And maybe the first example can be of an autocratic leader.
Absolutely, ma'am. And if you remember, I think sir had started yesterday's lecture like this only. He was talking to you about Kurt Levin's theory and telling you about how autocratic leadership moved to democracy and then laissez-faire movement, and then how we have contingency models today. So this is what, again, I would say, Priya ma'am, that this is the modern theory where we are talking about servant leadership. Now, it's very rare that you see authoritative leaders in the organizations. So either, they are transactional, that means just doing their job. Either they're transformational, they're inspiring people, but not ethical. And the last category, which I'm talking about, which is something now the organizations are trying to create, which is very difficult concept, is servant leaders. That means you are not just inspiring them or influencing them, but you also care for them. You have empathy for them. You have feelings for them. Like you were saying, Priya ma'am, that the second director, he used to sit with you all on a round conference and ask you in person, how many conferences you have attended, how many FDPs and API score that you are having currently. So he's not just thinking about the organization. He's also thinking about you as in person. This, I would say, is a perfect example of servant leadership. And thank you so much for sharing your example.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Hello.
Himlata ma'am, I just want to mention one more thing, if you allow me. After that, I will come back to you. Would it be fine? Just give me 2 more minutes. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Sure. Okay. Now, I will also like to mention a theory of Patterson here. So there's a beautiful paper where Patterson mentions the qualities which a servant leader needs to have. So since so many of you now thinking what are the qualities of a servant leader, let me have a discussion on it. So the qualities which he mentioned are, number 1, love. You need to love your followers. Unless and until you have love for them, you cannot get the work done. You cannot, truly believe in their development. Second, you need to have empathy towards them. You need to understand their problems as your own problems. Altruism. You should be having a selfless attitude towards them. If you're selfish or you're trying to achieve your own goals, you're not a servant leader. Then you need to have a trust. Development of trust is very important with your followers. And if you have integrity, if you have honesty, if you are having all these qualities, you will automatically develop the trust. So trust will be the consequence of it. Relationship building. The servant leaders focus on not just goals, but also on the relationship orientation. That means maintaining long-term relationship with their followers. Vision is very important. Ultimately, a leader needs to carry on the vision of the organization. So you need to have vision. And last part, another things I will do more qualities of a servant leader, that is service and humility. You need to have a feeling as if you are not the controller, but you are working as if you are a guardian of the organization. You are the guardian of the people. You have to provide a genuine service with a selfless attitude, with empathy, and you need to be, I would say, vision oriented. So these are the certain qualities which Patterson mentions of a servant leader. Now I'll come back to you. Yes, Hemlata ma'am, you are mentioning something.
Yeah, ma'am, what like I wanted to add up basically like a transformational leadership and servant leadership. In both cases, the leader want to achieve the organizational goal. But what I feel the difference is for transformational leader, the organizational goal is the main objective. And so they try to bring in the change. Whereas for servant leaders, at the individual goals and individual satisfaction and service is also important. So they are looking towards the organizational goal as the big picture and individual goals also.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely, ma'am. So, in fact, this brings me to the discussion of a model. Now, I was thinking about mentioning it at a later stage, but since you have brought it up, let me talk about it. There is a research which quotes that servant leadership is responsible for deception leading to organizational improvement or organizational effectiveness. Also, there is a research which empirically proves this, that servant leadership leads to psychological empowerment and organizational identification. I've used two big terms. What is psychological empowerment? It's not delegation. No. Psychological empowerment means that you are creating intrinsic motivation in the followers such that they feel enabled. They feel that they are capable of doing the work. You are giving them that kind of feeling, which is a psychological empowerment. So if you are a servant leader, you automatically create psychological empowerment and you create organizational identification, which I think Hemlata ma'am was trying to say. Organizational identification is that you end up feeling oneness with the organization. Now, job commitment and organizational identification are different aspects. Job commitment is that I feel I am a different person, organization is a different entity. My goals need to be aligned with the organizational goals. But when I say organizational identification, I do not perceive me different from the organization. I perceive my goals and organizational goals are one. So there's oneness of your identity, your soul with the organization. And that is a reflection of a servant leader. Servant leader is able to not just align your goals, but it's able to make you feel that your development is organizational development. So like Priya ma'am was mentioning, if I end up having many publications, if I end up having good lectures, if I end up satisfying my students, it's not just my achievement, it's my organizational achievement. So this is organizational identification, which is a consequence that comes from servant leadership. I hope I have answered it, Hemlata ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Okay. Now, again, coming back to the slides, dear participants, there's one thing which I had missed out. There was this self-consciousness scale. So as we were talking about how you can go out of the box, that means when I was talking about the self-deception thing, so there are a lot of scales available. You can probably browse it by yourself. But there is one I found, it was on positivepsychology.com website. And this is a self-consciousness scale of 24 items. So if you can use this scale on your own, everybody, because of lack of time, I did not think about carrying out this activity during this session. I thought you people can do it whenever you have convenience. So you can just log on to this website, try this out and check your level of consciousness. Check whether you are also having the problem of self-deception or not. Are you aware about yourself? Then coming to servant leadership, this is what I was discussing with you. right now, the difference between traditional and servant leadership. So in traditional leadership, the emphasis was on shareholders, that we have to maximize their EPS, their earning per share. We have to create wealth for them. Then second important was customer, and third comes the employees. But now it's employee-centric. Organizations are employee-centric. I think this is something which C.S. Sharma sir was mentioning in his introduction session also, when he had started the yesterday when we were having the orientation speech. So he was telling that organizations are now becoming employee-centric. So employees coming first, then customers, and then coming shareholders. So this is what the servant leadership is about. This is again the traditional model, going from top to bottom. The new model is let's go from bottom to top. So employees will automatically lead to the top. So this is a servant leadership model. Then the different qualities. So what I told you are the qualities given by Patterson. There's another most cited paper of Robert Russell. It is highly cited paper since 2002. He mentions these 20 characteristics of a servant leader, where he says these 9 are the main functional attributes and the 11 are the supporting attributes. So these are the functions which the servant leaders perform, and these are the additional attributes which enables him to perform these functions. To give you an example, you create the trust in the organization. And how do you create the trust in the organization? By ensuring credibility, by ensuring that people believe in your actions. So these are certain characteristics. It's a very interesting paper. You can probably note it down and you can read it at your time convenience again. There's also a paper which I read that was talking about that the personal values of a person, it leads to servant leadership moderated by all these traits, and then it influences organizational culture, which affects attitude and behavior and leads to performance that again affects servant leadership. I am sure I've spoken quite a lot of words which may not be clear to you. So let me go a bit slow now. I said my personal value system, it will make me a servant leader, also affected by all these traits. If I'm able to create servant leadership in the organization, it will lead to a change in organizational culture. My environment, my working environment will change all of a sudden. People will now not objectify you. There will be no objectification. There will be real care for the people working in the organization, relational culture, which will be developed, developmental culture, which will be developed, change of organizational culture. The moment it changes the culture, the people, personalities, their attitudes, their behaviors would change. The moment this changes, your performance would change. And ultimately, your performance will again give a good feedback to the servant leader, and it will have an impact on the servant leadership. Are you trying to understand the model, everybody? I hope I have not gone too fast. Okay. Then there's an interesting article I was reading. So it says that during the pandemic times, many of the CEOs of the big companies, they were ready to take the haircut. They were ready to take the pay cut. Now, what was this symbolic of? This was symbolic of care, empathy, love for their employees. So this is a typical example of servant leadership. So if I'm taking a pay cut, it means I care for the people working in the organization. I do not want them to leave. So I say it's okay, you give me less, but retain my employees. This is servant leadership. Okay, I have an interesting exercise for you, but this I'll come a bit later. Let me first, okay, let me just talk to you a couple of models more. So one model is also, as I just mentioned, that servant leadership leads to psychological empowerment, which again leads to organizational identification. I have talked to you about how values leads to servant leadership, and servant leadership affects culture. Culture affects attitude, affecting performance, which indeed affects servant leadership. Also, there is a paper which mentions that servant leadership affects ethical climate, ethical environment, because remember, servant leaders are authentic leaders. They are sticking to their morality, unlike transformational leaders. So these leaders will create an ethical environment, which ultimately leads to organizational citizenship behavior. That means people are willing to do extra in return for no consideration. That means there will be an attitude generated in the organization. If my colleague wants a help, I'm willing to give my help to him. without any other cause. That means organizational citizenship behavior will become a part of the norm in the organization. So these are some of these researches which I thought of sharing with you. And if you go and dig a little bit more, you will find there's a tremendous research being done on servant leadership. But again, as I said and I mentioned, we need to study more and read more and develop research papers more on the concept of deception being a part of servant leadership, but in the ethical way. So there I say that deception is a norm. We need to go for strategic deception. It needs to be adopted by servant leaders, and it needs to be adopted in such a way it leads to organizational performance, and it is in the larger good of my followers. So on this note, I will quickly discuss there were certain stories I wanted to discuss with you, but I think let's have this case study first. What would you prefer? So dear participants, you want me to discuss the stories or you want me to take up the case study? Because we are left with just 10 minutes.
We would like to have both.
You like to have both. Okay, then I will have to hush with the things. I hope you like the content so far, whatever I have delivered and whatever I talked about. I hope it made sense and you felt it, the topic, the feeling part.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So now, okay, let's first have the case study. And okay, let me first talk about certain stories. Then I'll come back to the case study. Okay. So these are just certain stories which I read. I thought when we are talking about leadership, let me discuss some stories with you. Some of them you may be knowing. So first story on being open to new ideas. So what is happening is in a board meeting, a couple of people are sitting and brainstorming about a problem which they have in a product. So boss is asking, what should we do? Our product is not selling. So one fine fellow, he just jumps up and says, the problem here is, sir, we need to change the fabric of our apparels, and the moment we do it, it will sell wonderfully well. Now the boss said, oh my God, wow. So since how long you were thinking about this idea? How much time you took in, communicating this idea? And the fellow replied, it took me 32 years in replying you this. Can you tell me what is the problem here? It took me 32 years of working in replying and giving this idea. So what I'm talking about is the leadership need to be open to new ideas. Otherwise, it will be too late when, you get your own feedback. You have to have a continuous feedback. That kind of an environment need to be created by the leader. Otherwise, it will be too late for things to happen. Second example I would like to give you of treating mistakes as training. So what happens, this again, an employee, he was responsible of buying the raw material for the company. So what happens, he buys the raw material of worth rupees 10 lakh, and later on he got to know that the entire raw material was faulty, defective, and of no use. So he realizes that now my boss will just, fire me. It's better. I have self-respect. Let me just give my resignation and just leave. So he goes to his boss with the resignation letter in hand, and he says, sir, I would like to leave. I want to resign. What do you think the boss would reply? Anybody? What do you think the boss would reply?
So it depends upon the kind of leader he or she is.
So basically in my story, the boss says, I have spent 10 lakh rupees on the training of you, and unless you return me that, I'm not letting you leave. So can you see what type of leadership I'm talking about? He's giving him a second chance. He's saying, you have done a mistake, don't repeat it. I know you will never repeat it, and you are effective and you'll be better tomorrow. So don't worry. This was just a training cost. Third story, which I will like to give you on leadership, and after that, we'll move on to that case study. How people are treating each other. Okay, so one guy, he dies and he goes to hell. He sees that people are sitting on a big dining table. Anybody who has heard this story before? Anybody? Okay, so people were eating on this big dining table together, and they all were having wooden hands. Okay, so since they were having wooden hands, they could not bend their arms. So they were not able to eat. The table was full of best food, okay, best dishes, but they were not able to eat. And they were crying simply because they had wooden hands and they couldn't eat. The same guy, he goes to heaven and he sees the same condition, that the dining table is full of food items, people have wooden hands, and they're very happy. They're happily eating food. Can you tell how?
And they are sharing their food.
Yes, Shubham sir, what they were doing is they were helping out each other, since they couldn't, bend their arm, but at least they could use it like this. So they were, helping each others. They were making others eat. So this kind of thing was there in the heaven. So what I'm trying to say is the hell and heavens are within you. So how you are respecting the individual, it will make all the difference. So this is what a servant leader also need to do. You need to have openness, you need to care for your followers, and you need to have genuine respect. Unless you have these feelings in the organization, your organization is not going to do well. Unless and until you have these characteristics being imbibed in the organization. So now with this note, there's a small brainstorming session which I have kept for you. Shubham sir, can you please read out this question? I hope I'm audible.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, anybody? Yeah, Anandya sir, you can read it out.
Sure, ma'am. In the animation course, a teacher realizes that the students are not performing as per their potential and divides them into different groups and allocate them separate projects. He chides the students on their first presentation, knowing well that the students have performed beyond his expectation. What do you think the teacher's strategy?
Okay, so I hope everybody understands the problem in hand. Thing is, let's take your own personal example. So there's this teacher who is teaching an animation course, and he sees that students have a lot of potential, but they're not performing as per that. So he just puts them in different groups and he says, you do this task, you do this task, you do this task. And then he can see that what students are actually doing is something beyond what he has even thought of. They're performing beyond his expectation. But still what he says to the students, no, you are not doing a good work. What are you doing? This is not what I wanted. Why is it behaving like this? So the first question is, what do you think is the teacher's strategy? What is he trying to do? Yes, all our teachers out here, can you reply? What is the strategy?
Maybe he wants to bring out the maximum potential in his students.
Absolutely. He knows that his students have potential, and to bring the best out of them, he's chiding them, because sometimes you cannot have all times good approach. You need to have a carrot and stick approach also. So this is again a kind of deception which he is using it. He is using deception. He doesn't believe in this, that his students are not doing good, but he's saying that his students are not doing good. Reason being because he wants to bring the best out of them. Second question, is he an effective leader in this case? What do you think? Is he an effective leader?
Most certainly.
Yes, to a certain limit.
Yes, to a certain limit, depending upon how the outcome comes out to be. Okay. Then the third question, what leadership skills do you think he's reflecting, and what type of leadership is he exercising? Anybody would like to comment on that? Anybody?
It's a mix of transformational and transactional both, because ultimately.
Okay, here is something which I want to comment upon. Now, why do we say that, why not servant leadership? Do we mean that servant leader also always have to be a holy man? He always have to behave like a saint? No. I'm saying servant leader needs to have empathy. He needs to have love. It doesn't mean that he will always say that you are doing good, you are doing good, you are doing good. Ultimately, he is a leader. He has to bring the best in the interest of his followers. So right now, a teacher is doing something for his children, for his students. He is not having, chiding, what he is doing is because he knows that they can give the best project. And right now he think if he says the truth to his students, what will happen? His students will stop performing. They will stop thinking. Just to bring the out of the box ideas, he's using deception. But can we say he's a servant leader? Why we are just thinking about transactional and transformational leadership? Why not servant leadership here? Yes, think about it. I'm not saying this is the right answer, but I'm just thinking. Yes.
Ma'am, may I?
Yeah, Anupma ma'am. Renu ma'am, can you please keep your audio off? Yes, Anupma ma'am.
Ma'am, because I think, again, the articulation is an issue. Of course, I mean, if we see that they were not doing at all, they were not performing at all, but the strategy that the leader used to divide them in the groups, he could force them to reach to some level. So I think there was some motivation also that was required, along with like you said, carrot and stick, policy. So I think stick is there to push them towards better performance, but a little bit of carrot policy was also required. That is what I feel.
Okay, Anupma ma'am, probably you can say that I would say here that, the carrot would be that the students would perform best in the outer world. Once they know how to do things, they will be the best performers in the outer world, right? Now here, as you people are right here, see, whether it's servant, whether it's transformational, it's completely on situation. Right now, for me, if I perceive this case study, I say that it's a servant leadership, provided, again, his intention should be good. What he's doing is doing for the followers, he's doing for the organization. And how he's doing it, see, empathy, love automatically would come in. But this is also important that, that he exercise this kind of leadership. Just a minute, I think I'm getting a call. Okay, I think we have extended the time limit. And so I should be closing the session because I perceive you have a session at 11:45. So I will just like to say at the end, I hope you all enjoyed today's session and now you are pretty clear with the concept of deception and servant leadership.
Yes, ma'am. And thank you so much for a wonderful session.
Yes, ma'am. The session was amazing.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I hope everybody has enjoyed it. And now I will like to close this session because I think you have a next session coming up. Okay, then bye everybody. I really enjoyed having session with you. And I hope you, at the end of the day, you can now tell what is deception and what is servant leadership. Okay, then. So bye everybody. Bye-bye. Have a good day.
Bye, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay.